Hi, I'm Emily Gagnon, and I'm here today as a community partner, and I work with a community group in Brighton. But just before I start, can I just check how many other community partners there are here? Someone mentioned they were practitioner earlier as well. Yeah? Okay. And yeah, what am I doing at the ESRC, standing on a stage by a podium? I think the simple answer to that is probably that I'm part of a community, and it's a community that has shared values, and those values are about helping disadvantaged young people, and we're very passionate about that, and that's brought me into a larger community of research, which has resulted in me coming here today with Angie. My own identity is actually quite fractured, possibly, as in I have multiple hats. I'm a practitioner in that I work with the community group for young people. It's a community group for young people experiencing mental health issues, and I support them. I've done quite a bit of work supporting them, facilitating them, and being part of the group, helping them raise awareness about mental health issues and engaging in projects such as co-production projects with the University of Brighton around the work that they're doing there. I'm also, hopefully an early career researcher, and through the community that we're part of, I'm learning to increase my own capacities, so I'll talk about that a little bit more at the moment. But also, I am a person who has had experience of mental health issues in my life and that of others, which is what has brought me to work with the community group, which ultimately has brought me to the work at the University of Brighton. And that community that we're part of at the University of Brighton is something where co-production is more than just a word. It's something that we live and breathe. So just part of being here, I guess, is to describe some of the things that we've been doing in that community, and how that co-production comes about and what it looks like.
Okay, and there's another bit of that jigsaw, which is Boing Boing Social Enterprise that we've set up actually as it's a bit of a spin out from the university, although we don't have a formal relationship with the university, but the university does provide 2 desk spaces in the university for people who work with Boing Boing, and we have community fellowships for them as well. So, and I'm the director of that. So we really do have this kind of, Boing Boing's a bit of a boundary object in the community of practice language for the coming together of people from the university and from community groups, and some of us actually overlap both. I'll put this slide up here. This is our website. It's quite an interesting story how we put this even together in the first place, because we sort of originally hid it on the server at the University of Brighton because we didn't really have a space for this website. It was a collaborative website. As you can see, it doesn't really look like a university website, and we just put it on there. This was when we had an ESRC Knowledge Exchange grant. And I think what then happened was it got lots and lots of traffic, and the university noticed it, because they didn't before. It was just something that was, we didn't really make a big deal of it. And of course what then happened in terms of the story around the website was in the impact case study that we wrote for the Research Excellence Framework, we ended up being able to say things about this website that the university was very pleased with. But it did start as a bit of a hidden space. And this page here is, so we call this the Boing Boing, the Boing Boing website, and our group is Boing Boing. We call ourselves Boing Boingers, and it's this joint identity that we share. Our interest is in supporting disadvantaged children and families around resilience-based practice. And the holding space that we have, I was interested in the colleague who was speaking earlier talking about setting up a relationship with an organisation and then seeing what happens. In a way, this is what we've done with our community of practice, in that we have a holding space for any organisations or individuals who are remotely interested in the topic that we're interested, the area of research. And we say it's a space for anyone with a pulse who's interested in research or practice development around resilient space work. And we have no problems whatsoever in people attending that. It is something that almost runs itself in terms of the numbers of people who come and the actual breadth of participation we get. And as you can see, we have a space for this on our website, and we keep a regular tally on there of who comes. We have the past sessions, we put them on the website so that people can look at them, and we really do hold to that, and we've made a commitment to carry on running that for as long as I work at the university. And there's something around this commitment to collaborate that isn't project-based. It's more, as Emily was saying, more a values-based and a philosophy of engagement that we've committed to, that is part of one of the reasons why I think it is something that people do come from. And from that, many different partnerships have emerged.
The community, the framework that we use to understand our community, which is a communities of practice, although in some ways it seems quite strange to be putting words on it because the whole process seems so natural from our point of view. We bring together the people, and the thing that brings us together is our shared expertise and passion for supporting young people and disadvantaged people with disadvantages, and we use the resilience framework that at the University of Brighton have been developing to help structure some of that. But generally we are brought together by that shared interest, and we're very one of the things that's really important about that for us is these different types of knowledge and knowledge bases. Working with the young people that I work with, they have quite a natural understanding that they have expertise and understanding of their own lives and what's happening, but that's traditionally not. That's very different to the kind of knowledge that academics might traditionally hold. So quite a large part of the community and working together is actually finding ways to value those knowledge bases equally and change some of the asymmetries in the traditional hierarchies of knowledge.
We were saying that we work from Brighton, but actually our community of practice and the way that this has developed internationally, interestingly, through the Boing Boing website and the Twitter feeds and things like that, and a whole different ways. Also just things like writing. We have also written a lot of academic papers around the work, but there are all these different areas of practice that we've engaged in, and people have come to the community of practice actually rather than the University of Brighton, interestingly. I think when I go around places, people often say, "Oh, are you the Boing Boing, one of the Boing Boing ladies?" And they don't actually necessarily even see me as a University of Brighton person. It's been quite interesting to see that identity develop. And as I say, these are some of the partners that we've got involved with who have actually been interested in either in the community practice approach that we've developed, or the resilience framework and the set of resilience practices around that, which again is a community developed initiative, and that very much is the research that we've been doing in a co-productive framework. Just thinking about a few PhD students as well, working with PhD students. I've got 8 PhD students at the moment, and 4 of them are doing collaborative inquiry, cooperative inquiry, or co-produced work of some kind. And they are real drivers, again, of this forum and this group, which does give it a real sense of vibrancy. If you've got PhD students who have signed up to do their research in this collaborative way, and notwithstanding the issues that a colleague was talking about later in terms of career progression and development and things, actually they've decided to go for that space come what may. And so this is just showing really that we do have, as we said, some of the more formal academic publications, but we've also got some very interesting co-produced publications that Emily will tell you about this one and the history of how that came into being.
Yeah, some of the outputs that are created, it's not just down to academic papers and what is it the academics want. The groups that are involved in the just, well, it's more than just research, actually, in the communities. They're not just encouraged but supported to create their own outputs. But this one actually came about because a PhD student who was working with a group of carers, kinship carers, so it was mostly the grandparents of the children who they were looking after, actually, who were engaged in the research. They saw another output that had been created by the group of young people with mental health issues. And they saw how they really loved the resource. It's on the website as well. It's a toolkit. It's very engaging. It's got personal stories, and it's got it talks about how their own experiences relate to the resilience framework. They saw that resource and they actually turned around to the PhD student and said that we want to create a resource like this. So the motivation came entirely from the group of grandparents and family members, and they got together with some of the people who'd actually worked on the other resource. So we've got these communities starting to connect with each other and share their own experiences about how to create outputs and relate to the resilience framework. And they together created this resource, which is, again, a very engaging resource for people who are interested in kinship care to engage with the resilience work at the University of Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, there's an interesting article just come out in Gateways, which is an international community engagement journal. It comes out of Australia, really quite interesting if you don't know it. And this article is actually about who initiates co-production, who actually are, who is it, the community partners, is it an academic? And it's all about that, the politics of initiation. And this was such a fascinating issue around the kinship carers research, because they really mobilised themselves around it and said, well, you know, okay, so you're doing it for your PhD, but what about us? And sort of came in a deputation to me saying, can you get us some money to support us to do this? And I'm like, oh, right, better then, hadn't I? Very much their own initiative, and they've done all sorts of things. And these people, this is a group of grandparents who are living in serious inequalities, a lot of them. It's not like they've got charmed lives. Some of our work has been around people who I would think would find it difficult to actually maintain a resource production of this nature, actually doing it. The young people from experience in mind, when they came to me and said, could you help us write our book? Frankly, I wanted to say no thank you, because I knew how hard it would really be to do something that was properly co-produced by them, with them leading it. But they did it. It's quite, I mean, they're just astonishing group of young people. This is another example of something that, again, Emily's been very involved in.
Yeah, it was a project working with the University of Brighton and working with the community group that I was involved with, and also actually some other young people with learning disabilities as well. So we again had quite a crossover of different people and diverse communities working together on this project, and the guide was produced together with the young people. So it was it sits alongside, and actually it probably gets more downloads than the other resources, in that they're just very engaging and talk directly to people. But then also one of the other offshoots of our larger community in these projects that are going on is that we actually get together with various different functions, and the people start inspiring each other. So the young people who have met some of the grandparents have been so inspired by the grandparents' stories. So it's not just the grandparents who are inspired by the young people to create the resource, so it does have its own momentum.
This is one of Etienne Wenger's slides, and Wenger, as many of you know, is one of the team of people, a couple of people particularly, who Jean Lavey, his colleague, who came up with the idea of communities of practice, which, as I was saying, that's something that we work with very, very strongly. And we sometimes, in our resilience forum, we play around a bit with this diagram of his and actually sit in the room in accordance to where we think we are in relation to the work that we're doing. Are we some of the ideas in it, people who are more peripheral? Some people come along to the forum and they want to be on the periphery, and they're just poking their noses in. Somebody said the other day, I'm just poking my nose in and I don't want any responsibility. I just want to be able to sit and listen. Other people, we might have a real active members of that group who've been coming quite a lot. They don't have to, there's no obligation that people come every month. We hold it once a month, and it is very much on a shoestring. That was another thing about it. We didn't want to put it together in any way in response to a research project, because that would come to an end. It would be very much just about what we will commit to is having a room available for this and a little bit of administration, and that was as far as it will go. People buy their own coffees and teas. If they can't afford them, then we do, when we buy them, and it is something that we do in collaboration. So it's jointly run by me and my university identity, and then someone from our social enterprise. And we use this idea of like lurkers as well. It's quite an interesting concept in there. People who just coming in and not really even sure if this is a space for them. But some of those lurkers are really turned out now to be very solid central community university partnership knowledge exchange people. So it's quite interesting how it's evolved. This is another way of looking at it, with all the different identities of people going in and out and crossing over. So there's an awful lot of overlap. People were talking before about community partners teaching on courses. We do that all the time. We've just been doing a piece of work with a group of young young people in care and care leavers. And again, that was something very much initiated by them, coming to us asking for some support with it. And a couple of the young people in care are now teaching on our social work programme through being involved in the book that we've passed around for people to look at. But again, I have to say that's really, they take the credit for that, not me. They worked amazingly well on that. The group who designed the graphics, even they were care leavers themselves as well. We didn't get some fancy external company to do it. It's their work. So just to finish, really, a couple of things to look at, to read. If you're interested in our work, have a look on the Boing Boing website. And we've also thought it was worth mentioning Community University Partnership Programme, CUP. There's lots of websites there. That's our kind of university corporate identity as Community University Partnership. And the last thing I wanted to mention was the Community Partner Network. Again, I've sent the flyer around, which is an initiative that I supported to set up. And what that is a group that supports anybody who wants to work with universities. And we've now transferred that. Originally we had a couple of grants from the Arts and Humanities Research Council who supported it, but our long-term vision was that National Coordinating Centre would actually take that up as one of their strategic priorities, and they do actually now host that group. So if any of you are community partners and you're interested in learning a bit more about how other people have managed these relationships between community and university, take a look at that. Academics, I just really ask you for your community partners, tell them about the network. It's a real source of support for them, and you can find that on the NCCPE website.